I grew up in a coastal village where the land tasted of salt. My family worked the evaporation pools, raking the white crystals into mounds that glittered under the sun like fresh snow. The salt flats stretched from the edge of town all the way to the mangroves, a white carpet between the village and the sea. My grandmother was the oldest salt farmer in the province. She had worked the same pools for 70 years, but she never went near them at night, and she had one rule that she made me repeat until I knew it by heart. Never walk the salt flats during a full moon. The flats belong to the moon, she said, and the moon does not share. I was 15 when I forgot. I had stayed late fixing a broken dike on the eastern pool, and by the time I looked up, the moon was already rising huge and white over the sea. The salt flats glowed beneath it, every crystal catching the light, turning the whole field into a mirror. And in the middle of the nearest pool, a woman was standing. She wore a white dress that looked like it was woven from the salt itself. Her back was to me. She was facing the sea. I knew I should run, but then she turned her head, just slightly, and I saw her face under the moonlight. It was my mother. My mother had been dead for 3 years. Her mouth opened, and the voice that came out was soft, layered, like it was walking up from the bottom of the ocean. She said my childhood name, the one only she had ever used. She raised her hand and beckoned. "Come," she said. "The salt is warm tonight." My feet moved before my mind caught up. I stepped onto the white crust, feeling the crystals crunch beneath my shoes. The figure kept beckoning, and the salt beneath her feet seemed to pulse, like something was moving underneath. I was 10 steps away when my grandmother came running with her bamboo rake. She grabbed my arm so hard I felt the bruises form. She did not look at the figure, she looked at the ground beneath it. "Do not look at her," she hissed. "Look at what she is standing on." I forced myself to look down, away from my mother's face, at the salt, at the crystals that had formed into the shape of feet, melting into the white crust, spreading outward like roots. The figure was not standing on the salt, she was growing out of it. My grandmother dragged me back to the house and barred the door. That night she told me the truth. The salt flats were not for harvesting salt. They were laid down generations ago during a famine, when the dead rose from their graves by the sea and walked into the village looking for food. The elders made a bargain. They paved the beach with salt, the one thing spirits could not cross, and the dead who had already risen were trapped beneath it, preserved in the white crust, still waiting. The flats were not a farm, they were a lid. I moved to the city when I turned 18, to a province with no salt flats and no ocean within 100 kilometers. But every full moon, I wake up with the taste of salt in my mouth, and sometimes when I look at the window, I find white crystals forming on the glass from the inside. Subscribe to Whisper of the Dark.